I don't remember what secret this is. There isn't much time left. It might already be too late. The labyrinthine pathways of arbitrary sharp turns seemed stranger and stranger as panic blotted out the once deeply ingrained memories that usually guided me. Every corner felt a stranger. Every straight line too long. The bell tolls for me. Oh, and no, I think I do remember this one. The last few barely making it. The rest of us never stood a chance. I struggled to regain my senses, to at least see what fate would befall me in my final moments. But even in this abyss of endless terror, my mind could have never imagined the horror I witnessed. Ta-da! It's a visual novel segment! Are you okay? Well, I just got knocked over some blind-by-choice asshole who gave my skirt a decorative dirt coating. So all in all, fucking fantastic. I'd prefer not to be on the ground right now. Sigh. Hey, sorry about being rude like that. I'm just really frustrated that I'm not only late for school, but also managed to get lost on the way there. Though, by the looks of it, you're pretty much on the same boat. And by that stroke of once-in-a-lifetime luck, you just happened to bump into the prettiest girl in town. You know what, Thin Crust? I think you're right about that. Point-and-click games are just interactive visual novels. Actually, I'm lost too. Just my luck. Though, in retrospect, I guess you wouldn't be here with me right now if you weren't lost as well. Oh well, no point in crying over spilled blood. We might as well just wait for another student to come, and we can follow them instead. I'm Mirage. Don't bother telling me your name, though. I don't really care. You could be a little nicer with people you've only just met. Yeah, well, you could do with a beatdown, so fuck off. But yes, you're right. I don't really care about what you or anyone else thinks of me, so I'm not interested in trying to be nice, just so that you'll be in a good mood. I find that hard to believe considering how heated up you get from practically anything I say. Don't flatter yourself. Blowing off steam is just how I cope. Cope with what? Everything. I mean, really, take a moment to think about it. The human mind, in its complete vastness, is capable of recognizing its utter helplessness and uselessness in the face of inevitable and unavoidable non-existence, but is incapable of coming to terms with it. We can only ever ignore it, hide from it, or temporarily escape from it. But the fact is, we are bound to the way of all things. Death is unavoidable, not only to us, but that all that exists or has ever existed. Every living being will eventually die out. Every speck of matter will eventually wither away and dissipate into entropy. It doesn't matter if you lived a good life or you left a legacy behind. It doesn't matter if humanity survives for 1,000 years or dies out tomorrow. The end result is the same. I was gone for a couple minutes. What is this? This is Ultrakill. This is the secret visual novel segment in Ultrakill. The end result is the same. The absolute nothing. Human intelligence is far beyond that of other animals, but it would be misguided to consider that a gift. But other beings have the gift of ignorance, of not understanding what we do. Our intelligence is not a gift, it is a flaw. It's an overextension of evolution. Intelligence, once a great feature in eons past, continued to grow unchecked and unfiltered. It has since passed a threshold whereupon it is no longer a benefit, but an active danger to its host. Much like the Irish elk, a species of deer that through uncountable generations of evolution grew antlers so wide and vast it could no longer run from predators, eventually leading to extinction. The human mind is an evolutionary maladaptation caused by going too far in a direction that was once beneficial and will, sooner or later, lead to our extinction. On an individual level, it's already happening. Existential dread is already taking hold. I'm sure you felt it too. The pain and fear of being nothing, becoming nothing. The suffering of understanding that we are unable to come to terms with it. So we hide from our own intelligence. Yeah, go ahead and check back in about 10 minutes then, Crust. We'll be back to shooting bad guys instead of talking about existential dread. We set limits. We stop ourselves from thinking deeply about what will happen when we die. We create distractions. We keep our minds busy with mundane activities and entertainment to stop ourselves from having come face to face with the truth. We subliminate it. We transform our self-reflective suffering into another form, art, to keep it from consuming us. Anything to avoid the panic. But these ways are all simply temporary. I don't know why her name is Mirage, that's just how she introduced herself. Where was I? These ways are all simply temporary. They're just there to push back the inevitable veil of helplessness and despair that would encompass and ruin us. In the end, nothing matters. There's no point in trying to find joy in life, for life in and of itself is suffering. You're wrong. Huh? You criticize those who consider our vast intelligence a gift, and yet you misguide yourself to believe our meaninglessness is a curse. How could it not be? Nothing we do matters in the end, and that is precisely why we are not shackled by the burden of expectations. The fear of eternal judgment or the failure to meet up the arbitrary definition of what makes our limited time, quote, not wasted. Time cannot be wasted. For there is no greater purpose in life than simply living it. But still, in that case, the meaninglessness of our actions draws to the same conclusion. There is no reason to act, for any action is simply a temporary fluctuation that will nevertheless lead to the same conclusion. Quite the contrary. Because we have no greater purpose, we are free to set our own, to create self-defined goals for which to survive. For some, it may be nothing. For some, it may be pleasure. For some, it may be creation. For some, it may be improving the life of others. It is because we have no greater purpose that we spend time on goals set by oneself. That time cannot be wasted. In the end, nothing matters, and therefore you have no reason not to do whatever you want, rather than the illusion of greater purpose is forced on you by others, or even your own misguided thoughts. I do understand what you mean. However, that doesn't ease my fear of the end. Even if I were to try and find purpose, I would still be paralyzed by the thought of becoming nothing. And it is the thought worth fearing. However, abandoning purpose, hope, choice, goals, pleasure, and will cannot make that thought disappear. The fear, however, can subside. Giving up is not accepting the end, it is simply accepting the fear of it, and embracing it, rather than despair. I see. Though as much as I'd like to embrace it, I am nevertheless struck with that paralyzing existential panic. I understand it logically, and I know that there's no reason to live in apathy, but my emotional side refuses to listen. The fear persists, and I cannot motivate myself to seek purpose, despite knowing I must. This is true. The emotional is not controlled by the logical, however, they are interlinked. Just the deepest, darkest depths of despair can overthrow reason and the logical, warping them to fit into that haze of depression. So too can reason influence and overpower emotion, regardless of how impenetrable its defenses may seem. By continually forcing to subvert those creeping negative thoughts with positive logical ones, the emotional mind will eventually, slowly, gradually start to shape to fit the logical. It is not an easy job. It is not a quick job. It will sometimes feel like an impossible job. However, it can be done. With immense amount of time, effort, and energy, it will improve. You can change. You can heal. And during the hardest times, when all seems lost and you want to give up, never forget. We will always love you. Well, I'll be damned. Guess you got a good head on your shoulders after all. Hell, I'm impressed. Man, I feel like I've just shed the weight of the world off my back. Or rather, you've done that for me. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You've given me a lot to think about, and while I'm sure I have a long, hard road ahead of me, I'm optimistic. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, I'm optimistic. Say, we're already way too late for school, and it's become quite clear now that nobody's gonna come lead us there. So how about you and I ditch that passin' draining penitentiary and go grab something to eat, eh? Yeah, sure, I've got nothing better to do. You're paying, though. Oh, you sneaky bastard. But alright. I do owe you one anyway. So what better time to cash out your did a nice thing to a girl way out of my league coupon than now, huh? An imperfect love song.